Welcome back to Election Connection. This podcast is titled The Future is Now, Empowering Tomorrow's Voters. Joining us today is Dr. Dewan, the Superintendent of the Santa Clara County Office of Education. Dr. Dewan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's always a great opportunity to talk about youth and youth voice.
Awesome. So we're just going to ask you a series of questions about the value of the youth voice and voter education. First question, what is the Santa Clara County Office of Education doing to help amplify youth voices and prepare students to participate in the democratic process?
Well, as County Superintendent of Schools, about 6 years or so ago, I engaged with young people throughout the county and educators and parents to launch an initiative called The Power of Democracy. And through this initiative, we established a strategic plan and set some goals that were really focused on creating multiple opportunities for youth to learn about voting, to get engaged in pre-registration efforts, to understand how government works, and to bring their peers along to also bring their voice into school boardrooms and into the classrooms, school campuses, and at the County Office of Education.
Where are the opportunities to increase voter education?
Well, I think there are a number of opportunities to increase voter registration and voter education, primarily starting with our young people maybe earlier in their elementary school years and really amplifying that throughout the middle school so that by the time young people are in high school, they already have a good sense of voter education. One of the initiatives that we did a few years back was to bring young people into developing scripts and creating videos and sharing with each other the basics, the mechanics of voter registration, voter education, how to read a ballot, and how to identify what are the issues that were important to young people.
I love that because starting young, even kids that get to vote on what we're going to have for lunch or what we're going to, they still feel like they're part of the voting process.
Absolutely.
And that their voice mattered. You know what I mean? So
yes, absolutely. And we see that many schools will do things such as developing surveys or creating a ballot box and letting young people help make decisions about their school campus, up to and including actually participating in mock elections, where they're able to learn about the federal election process and bring their voice and their opinions into a mock election experience.
Awesome. Well, what do you think are the challenges for the schools or for the students or just getting them involved?
Well, there are many challenges, I think, facing public schools today. One of those challenges is just there's a lot of curriculum, a lot of expectations for teachers, and only so many hours in a school day to really accomplish all the things that we would like. And I think that there are other challenges in that when young people are learning about their democracy, when they're learning about social studies and history and social sciences, they're coming to it from a different perspective, maybe various different perspectives, and may not have a universal experience about actually being able to see how voting impacts their daily lives.
Awesome. Okay, so I got to participate in your Power of Democracy event you guys just had. I thought it was amazing. Like the students that were there, very impactful. They're very smart. I mean, not that I was surprised that they were smart, but just what their input that they had into that event was amazing. Like I've been wanting to reach out and talk to those students about where they get all their insight from. But I mean, there was a lot of different good things that happened from that event that I took away from it. Just being like a speaker for 5 minutes about voting, but everything else I learned that day I thought was amazing. It was a great event. What impact does that Power of Democracy annual event strive to have on our youth?
For our Power of Democracy initiative, we're looking to accomplish a number of things. One is to create a forum for young people to be involved in the planning, to learn about democracy and to engage with their peers, and to be able to do that alongside the adults in their community. And so likely what you observed at the event was that young people were right at the table, right next to adults, leaders in their community, elected officials, and leaders of organizations. Young people also served on a panel, and they were able to talk to a large audience of Santa Clara County community leaders about things that mattered to them. And so it created this opportunity for them to see how their voice matters, to give them experience and practice in doing that then they can take with confidence back into their community. The other part of the event that I think is so important is recognizing young people, recognizing educators, and community leaders who are also organizing around this idea of lifting up youth voice and preparing our young people to participate in their democracy.
Yeah, I think I liked that the best about that event was the students that were up there on the panel, because they were honored to be, surrounded by all the community leaders. But then I was interested in what they had to say, because I was like, they're talking to their fellow students. You know what I mean? They're talking to adults. They're talking to the people that are making the difference, but they were making a huge difference. At least to me, from my point of view, I thought they were amazing. And I talked to some of them afterwards, and I was saying, did somebody script you guys on what to say? And they're like, no, we prepared our answers, So I just thought it was a really good event, and I liked that part of it, that they were able to sit at the tables, be on the panel, It was amazing. How can school districts implement the state seal of civic engagement and use it to create tangible avenues to teach civics?
As you were talking about the students and how they had an impact on you, they also had an impact in inspiring others, the educators, the principals, people in the community. And we record that event, so that also lets us amplify their voice even beyond that day, that experience. Part of our offering during the Power of Democracy was an orientation into the State Seal of Civic Engagement. And actually, the experience that the young people had during the event is one of the qualifying components to earn the State Seal of Civic Engagement on their high school diploma. There are many opportunities through the County Office of Education for schools to learn about the State Seal of Civic Engagement. And while the ultimate goal is for every young person to earn the seal for their high school diploma, the work and the pathways begin in the elementary years. So there's an opportunity for every school in Santa Clara County to participate in the State Seal. Local school boards can adopt criteria describing what does participation in democracy, service learning, serving our community look like in that local community. And so it allows for that whole continuum of voice from young people all the way up to the electeds.
I think that is something to be proud of. I feel like the kids that were talking about that or that were presented with that opportunity, I feel like that's something they would take complete pride in and carry it on to their younger siblings or anyone else afterwards that gives them the opportunity to earn that seal. So I felt like they were very happy and proud that they got to earn that. But the impact that it's going to have on anybody after them, like I said, their siblings or classmates, anyone else in the younger, that's about to graduate, it was huge. So I appreciate that you guys are doing that for the kids. In what ways can parents and guardians support and encourage their children to become civically engaged?
Well, we have a number of ideas here. So one of those ideas is that parents model participation in our democracy, that they are registered to vote themselves, that they, when they receive their ballot, that they talk to their family and talk about voting, and they talk about what's on the ballot and the issues, and they encourage their young people to understand the issues and to see them active. Another way that we think is important for parents is to encourage their young person when that young person is like, I'm ready to pre-register to vote, or I'd like to work at the polls. I want to be a part of this experience, and to have the support of their parents, encouraging them that, yes, that's a great thing to do. One of the things that we heard a student tell us is that through the Power of Democracy initiative, they learned for the first time what an elected official does. It was the first time they ever even considered the possibility that they could also aspire to a role of service in their community in that way. So having those conversations with parents and community is one very powerful way for us to support our young people.
I know, and I love going back to the Power of Democracy event. I feel like even some of the adults in that room didn't know you could pre-register to vote when you're 16, 17, and that's 150, 200 people in a room that can tell that many more people about this, the opportunity. It was amazing. I loved the event, so I'm excited about it. But what role do extracurricular programs like debate clubs or student councils play in fostering civic engagement?
The extracurricular activities are really pivotal and provide a core foundation for young people to have a variety of experiences. And they can also help a person meet the criteria for the state seal of civic engagement. So not all of the criteria has to be met during that time-bound day of the school. So anything that happens beyond the school day, in the summer, et cetera, can also meet that eligibility criteria, which is really important because many students have a lot on their plate during the school day and may not feel that they have time within their schedule, for example, to meet this criteria. Student council, serving on student council is one way. Mock trial is another way that young people learn about democracy. They learn about how our government works. There are also service learning clubs that students participate in, and it's another opportunity for them to do that. And many of those clubs throughout our high school campuses have hosted their own on-campus pre-registration days for their peers. So just another great example of how all that intersects back to the school.
I love that, and I know I've seen that. We've seen some of the schools that are like, hey, we pre-registered this many people, or we're doing this debate. I was telling some of our colleagues earlier, hey, I've seen high school debates. Some of these kids, they are amazing. Just the comebacks and just like their opportunity to argue a point or to have the facts that back up like what they believe in. We need to just let them express their voices. Share their voices even more. So I love that.
Well, along the same lines, if you don't mind me sharing that, I think with debate and debate club, they're also learning about civil discourse and how to engage in discussion and talk with others who may have different opinions in a way that keeps us engaged and allows us to have a more inclusive community and a more inclusive discussion. And so I think there's a really strong intersection between learning to debate and have civil discourse as part of our state seal of civic engagement work.
That's great, because I think, voicing their opinion, even though their opinions are completely different, someone throws a topic at them and they're just arguing their points, like they had good points. And they were also expressing, their voice without fighting on a playground or, out in the streets, or it was more, let's just talk about this. This is why you have your point. This is why I have mine, So I like that, that message that comes from that. Can you share any specific success stories where youth voices have significantly impacted local or school district decisions?
There are so many examples that I could share, and I'm going to spend a couple minutes focused on the work of youth to advance climate action in their communities. One example is a young leader in a South County School District who identified things happening on their school campus where they felt we could make a difference. And they brought ideas to their local school board, to their principal. They organized some of their peers, and they're doing all kinds of things now on their school campus, like recycling programs and ensuring that students are learning about careers in climate action work and developing resolutions that they're asking other bodies to adopt. Other examples are students from a number of different districts who've come together to form the Youth Climate Action Initiative. And through that work, again, they're developing model resolutions for bodies to adopt. They're advancing learning about the impact of climate change in the community, and they're taking real action themselves to make a difference in their community. And all of that is directly connected to their understanding of how their voice makes change in their community.
And I feel like your event, because they talked about that at the Power of Democracy event, I feel like they felt like they had a voice. They were on the stage with people, everybody's ear to them, listening to what they had to say. And it wasn't a script. They weren't standing in front of us reading off what we prepared for them. It was what they did. So I feel like it was so impactful. It was a great event and a great opportunity for those kids. So I know that.
And the meaningful change can be as massive and as important as climate action. It can also be, minor things too. Another example would be students who noticed that there was a lot of food waste at their school. And they just organized some ideas and worked with their teacher and created a compost situation on their school campus that helps their school garden at the same time. So it can be little meaningful actions that make a change, all the way up to very big, very public showing acts of change.
I think that's the most important part, right? To let these kids know, or students or young voters or whatever, know that they are making a difference, and there's opportunities for them to show where they can make a change or have it, make a difference. It starts there. But that's the end of the questions that we have for you. Do you have any questions for us?
I have some questions that I would really like to understand how things are going with like youth voter registration and pre-registration.
Yeah.
What are our numbers like and how are things going?
Well, we always want to be number one in California, right? That's our goal, to get the most number of pre-registered students. We're currently in the top 5, which we want to be number one, like I said. But in our county, we have 40,000 students that could possibly be turning 18 by the next election, right? So November. Our numbers are in the 6,000s. Clearly, there are things that we can do to increase that, but we also have to remember these kids turn 18, so of course our numbers are going to drop. Of course, it's summer. They're not all in school with teachers telling them, like, here, you can pre-register to vote. But there are opportunities to prepare for what's coming up when the school starts again. High school voter education month is in September, right when the schools start again. So it's 6,000 right now. Like I said, we're in the top 5, but we have 40,000 kids to talk to reach out to. Yeah.
I think together we can get to number one in
Thank
California.
you. Thank you. I've been wanting to do that.
Can you share just a little bit, too, about your ideas of how young people could learn about the Register of Voters, how they might be involved in the November election?
Well, I think you had mentioned a mock election. The Secretary of State puts on a mock election. Absolutely get a mock election going on in their school. I think it's important. I know when I was talking about power of democracy, I was telling you I had my ear listening to those students. I think the students have more of an ear listening to each other. So if it's a student to student, like telling everyone, did you know that you could pre-register to vote at 16 or 17? That's different than hearing from your mom or your neighbor or your mom's coworkers. You know what I mean? Or it's a different voice, I think, coming from a student. So, I know we try to get in all the schools. I wish there was a way for us to check off the list that we went to every single one of the schools in the county. We can get there together, right? That's why we're here, so we can get that message to all of them. But I think it's more, getting them involved and knowing that they have resources. So they can come to our office. We have pre-registration toolkit that we could just hand out. Like, we have them. It has all the instructions. It has a QR code because none of the kids know everybody has their phone in their hand, So those types of things, think we need to get in the hands of the schools and in the schools. So
the toolkits that you talked about have been a favorite of my office, and we appreciate that you've given us quite a few. And I use them in different ways. One of the ways I use them is to hand them out to adults in community meetings, staff development, and I challenge the adults in the room to take, especially the birthday one. Mm-hmm. If you know somebody, a neighbor, a cousin, a family member, maybe your own child, who is going to turn 16 or 17 on their birthday, give them this and sit down with them, talk to them, and help them get pre-registered to vote. So while we also do a lot of this work through the schools, there's opportunity through the community, and I think the tools that you have created are really valuable.
I love that you said that, because we do that too. We'll sit in a room and with a room full of adults, and we'll say, raise your hand if you know a 16, 17-year-old. And they'll raise their hand, and we'll hand them those kits. Those need to just get out. I know you guys have done a lot of work with us, we give your office thousands of those, but it needs to get out more. 40,000 kids that are eligible to pre-register even before the November election is a lot of kids. A lot of people that are 16, 17, even turning 18, about to turn 18. That's 40,000 more voters that we can participate in the election. So before you go, did you want to talk to us maybe about high school voter education weeks that are coming up?
Well, with the November election right around the corner, it's really important to showcase that we have 2 weeks dedicated. Of course, young people can register and pre-register to vote at any time, but we'll have 2 dedicated weeks in September where we'll be sharing at school campuses and throughout the county opportunities to help young people get registered to vote. So they are 2 great weeks for anyone in the community to be involved if they want to volunteer at a local school or in their own community, or if they want to support young people who are organizing events. So there'll be more information on our website at sccoe.org.
All right, and same with ours, with sccvote.org. People can request toolkits. They can get information on pre-registering to vote. I think we need to get that message out. We can't get that message out enough about pre-registering to vote, especially for the upcoming election. Like we said, 40,000, that's a lot of students, but it'll also boost us up to our number 1 in the state in pre-registration, which I know you would be very proud of. I know we have strived for that for the longest time. So thank you.
And we also know that developing that habit of voting, starting early, is going to set a foundation for a lifetime of participation in the democracy. So again, those 2 weeks can be really foundational for the rest of their lives.
And I know your office has worked with our outreach team, and we have in high school, got into the high schools with these pre-registration kits, even standing in front of the classroom and talking to them about, everybody take your phone out. It takes 5 minutes to pre-register to vote. Let's do it. We've done that with a lot of the schools. So thank you to the schools that have participated in that. I know like high school voter education weeks are very, there's a lot of events going on with your team, with our team. We've combined and been at high schools together. So I think it's very impactful, but I think September is the year for us to get to number 1. What do you think?
I agree. And we're all in.
Dr. Dewan, it's been enlightening discussing these important topics with you. I really appreciate all that you and your office have done, for the youth of this county. I think it's very important just talking about it now and letting them hear what we have to say, and more important, letting them talk peer to peer, student to student about how important it is. So thank you. We really appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you for having me. I believe strongly in the power of partnership, and the work that we do together is what is allowing these outcomes to happen. Thank you for the partnership.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, as County Superintendent, I want to invite all the listeners to follow the SCCOE. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook. And to learn more about the State Seal of Civic Engagement, or to learn about the high school voter registration weeks, you can find us on sccoe.org.
Thank you, listeners, for tuning into Election Connection. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on our social media, and don't forget to elect to connect.
Audiobook.
Okay, we have this ongoing debate about audiobooks because there's a lot of readers in our office, and we keep saying, do you consider audiobooks reading?
That is a very excellent question. We do consider audiobooks part of literacy. So when we think about literacy, it's reading, it's vocabulary development, it's listening, comprehension. So audiobooks would be an important part of a literacy education.
Okay. That's the debate, because they're like, it's still learning. I'm like, but is it reading? Is what I was asking them. Is it reading? Reading, I guess, with your eyes, or listening? Is listening reading?
We would literally, reading is reading with words and, print or on the screen. But literacy includes reading, listening, comprehension, vocabulary development, and more. So, and critical thinking.
I know.
So you get a lot. You get a lot of that from audiobooks as well.
Yeah, our vote on it Instagram poll, I think, was torn. Like, some people were saying, yes, it is reading. No, it's not. It was a good debate. But I said I wanted to ask you, and you came.
I know a lot of book club people. They belong to a book club. They listen to the book.
Oh.
And then they participate in the discussion. So they're still in a book club.
That's true. Okay, you win.
We just got deeper into that.
I know we did, because they were like, it's still learning. And I'm like, I know, but is learning, I'm asking if it's reading.